cool, man. You're dedicated.
Cool. What's up? This is the Movie Night with the Boys show, where we watch movies and tell you what we think about them. This week's episode is about Swiss Army Man. We don't have a sponsor, because I can't think of one.
Brought to you by Paul Dano's Smile.
Sponsored by...
It'll light your way through any dark tunnel.
Exactly. Paul Dano sponsors this episode, specifically. Spoilers, starting right now. If you don't want spoilers, go to this time code. There's not really any triggering stuff, unless you don't like dead bodies or Harry Potter or something. Other than that, I think we're good to go. So if you want to see the shorter review, go to the end of the video. Stars Paul Dano, Daniel Radcliffe, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Pretty much the only three people in the movie. Yeah. Directed by the Daniels.
The Daniels.
Music by Andy Hull and Robert McDowell of Manchester Orchestra. So let's just go over what you think about it. Quick review from Steven first.
Absolutely, hands down, loved it. It was a fresh take on filmmaking for me, actually. Given its like bizarre ass nature through and through the entire movie, / really down to earth. Oh my god, what am I fucking doing here? I should shoot myself-ness of the freaking dialogue and like the real meaning behind the movie. And like I love that it's kind of like a cover of itself, in a sense, throughout the entire movie. Like it all centralizes around one specific theme, but it's like all the other things, like the farting and like obviously like the dead bodies and stuff like that, and like the guy talking and like all the like really goofy shit. Like he teaches him how to take a shit and stuff like that. You know, like that's good shit. But like honestly, it all kind of feels like a disguise a little bit for this movie, just to like sort of keep you wrapped up and like wondering where in the fuck could this possibly go. And it turns out somewhere pretty interesting.
Cool. So you liked it.
I really liked it.
Dustin. Dustin has not seen this movie. Me and Steven have both seen it many times, but Dustin hadn't seen it until just now.
Yeah,
this was his first time watching it.
I loved it. I saw it for the first time just this morning, so a couple hours ago. Yeah, I pretty much agree with what you said, Steven, as far as it definitely, you could tell that there was an underlying theme the whole time, which was really cool. It was cool, and I don't know, it was... Fuck, I can't talk right now. It was interesting how it would be almost such a deep part of it, and then it would, Daniel Radcliffe is a learning dead body, and he would just ask some fucking ridiculous question. And so it's got a lot of humor behind it. I was laughing my ass off a couple times. But I think just towards the end, I was kind of confused for a little bit, and then I came back around. The movie does a really good job about like trying to explain everything. It was still a little bit strange towards the end, but I loved it.
Cool. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's in my top 10 of like the 10 movies that I give a perfect 10 absolute masterpiece movies. This is one of them for me. It's like one of my favorite movies.
Honestly, I can understand.
I don't know what it is like about it. And that's, I don't know, I think that's one of the things that I like so much about it is that, like, it looks really good, like, it's really funny, the acting's really good and shit like that, but, like, there's something about this movie and, like, the feelings around it, like, I don't know, just something about the feelings is that it's like, I feel so happy watching this movie. Something about it, like, it brings me fucking joy the entire time, like, even when it's, like, the sad parts or, like, the fucked up parts, like, just something about watching this movie makes me feel like a really, really excited little kid. And I don't really know why.
It makes you feel good.
Yeah, but it's like...
For some reason.
It's really fucking adorable. Like, it's just this cute, like, buddy cop movie about a fucking dead person and, like, this loser that, like, wants to die all the... I don't know. It's just... It's so fucking weird. And I love the just ridiculousness of it. Like, it's a ridiculous concept, obviously, is what they sold the movie on. But then it doesn't shy away from the fact that it's a ridiculous story. It doesn't like... No. It's not like, hey, here's a stupid concept, but we're going to try to make a real movie. It's like, no, here's a stupid fucking concept, and it's stupid, and you're stupid for liking it, but we're going to make you like it so much for some reason. And it's just dumb and crazy, and in the end, it doesn't make any sense. And I love that they didn't, like, they explained things,
Yeah.
but they didn't make it make sense. They just explained, they just, like, when the first time I watched it, I thought that what I was scared was going to happen is at the end, you know, it was going to go the traditional route where it turns out that Manny was never alive.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was
you know,
happen.
Paul Dano, he was just a, you know, he was a
Yeah.
crazy person because he had been lost for so long.
Yeah.
And it didn't actually happen. But I fucking loved the very end of the movie where they like, he makes them chase him through the woods or whatever, and they see all the shit that he's been doing, because it has actually, all of it's been happening.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like, Manny's a dead body and no one believes him, but then he, like, literally floats away like a fucking jet ski, because he actually was alive and had those magic powers the whole time.
Yeah.
And everyone, like, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's final line, the final word in the movie is, what the fuck? Which is fucking perfect, because... Yeah, what the fuck? And Daniel Radcliffe's just, like, floating away with his weird
just his
dead
fucking
face.
giggly, stupid ass
and
face.
it's just an adorable... It has a lot of heart. I don't think I've
Yeah.
seen a movie with more heart where you can tell the people making it really fucking loved making it.
That's a good fucking...
No. This movie absolutely does all of that, but in the long run, it's just... what it feels like is two best friends making a fucking movie that they thought of on their own, and just so happen to have some very talented people to help them out with it due to, like, their histories together. And the film does this amazing job of making me feel like they're using the camera like it's a playground.
Yeah.
And that's honestly missing from so many movies nowadays. It was so, like you said, with, like, the whole childlike sense of about it and everything, where he kept just building stuff and going, "Whoa," and then they would use the camera to, like, help that. They would put this garbage, like, piece of garbage, like, little toy car that he made right here, and then there's Daniel Radcliffe over there, like, way in the distance, so he looks like he's gonna get hit by the car, and then,
they make him fall over.
They would do stuff like that.
Yeah.
They would they made the camera a character, which is basically Paul Dano's head almost the entire time, to me. And that's just nuts, dude. Like, I haven't seen that in, like, a film in a long time, where, like, it was just through and through fun for everybody, and it all meant everything to everybody in the end. And, like, who does that anymore?
And you
like,
could tell...
You won't see that in no blockbuster movie nowadays.
No.
You'll see nothing but red tape. You'll see everybody like, oh, that was a creative little thing that they did. But this movie was like, no, that is the most creative movie I think I've seen in my entire life.
Yeah, the whole thing, the whole movie is like a jaw-dropping, like,
Yeah.
they're actually doing this.
And
They're fucking running with this so hard.
And think about their setup, too. They're just in the woods and doing all this stuff. Like, and they found, like, some, like, little deserted, like, area that they, like, comped in to make an island out of and everything like that. And that's badass. They did almost everything completely practically, like, how they stick with in their music videos for Manchester Orchestra. And, like, the other ones, too. Turned down for what? Oh. Like, you can tell where the penis came from. But, like,
yeah,
it's badass, dude. Like, it's just badass that, like... You can be goofy and weird with your movie, and, like, I could still walk away from it, like, loving everything about it. And is this our first A24?
Yes, this is the first A24.
This is our first A24 review, and I guarantee it will not be the fucking last, because A24 has just got it.
That's the production company.
They know exactly who they're going for, and they know exactly who tells their stories. And honestly, like, I would be honored to be picked up by them someday, but, like... Just even, like, every single A24 movie I've seen has not let me down in this sense.
No.
Where, like, I feel like I'm going to walk in and be like, oh, it's going to be just another boring love story. No, it turns out it's a love story about a man who might be turned into an animal if he never gets to be in love again.
The Lobster.
Like, The Lobster, obviously. But, you know, like, they're doing movies like this. Where are more movies like this, and why are they only existing on this production company?
I don't know.
Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, it makes me feel like film is stupid, and you're stupid for trying it, unless you're going for A24. And
Jesus.
Well, they are that.
that's
like,
how this movie makes me feel,
They're
man.
the production company that, like...
Movie makes
you
me
can
feel like
tell,
I should just quit. Never go for my dreams.
You can tell when they put out a movie that, like... They funded it, obviously, because that's pretty much how production companies work. You know, they give you the money and the resources to make your movie. But you can tell that A24 is the kind of people where they pick a weird person and they're like, we're going to let you make whatever movie you want to make.
I don't even know if that's how it is either. Like, because they're almost always Sundance winners. Like The Witch.
Well, I mean, they have like a style of movie maker that they're always kind of going for. It's always that,
I just
they're
feel
in
like
that indie space.
every film they pick up, whether they produce it or just pick it up to distribute it, has this kind of sense about it.
Yeah.
Where it's like a kind of coming of age thing, almost as always within these movies.
And it always has like a weird premise.
Yeah.
Like a ghost story is weird.
But
and
an amazing
killing the
point.
deer is
Like,
weird.
In the end, it all wraps up to this like piece of like masterful art. Like in the end, almost all of them have done this. Like Moonlight's done it. The Witch. I haven't seen what is that one? American Honey, but I heard it's like another one that's pretty slammed home when it comes to that. Like, you see what I mean? They're all kind of like
it's all that same kind of. They're
sense.
like almost the same thing, but you can tell that they gave the writers and directors like complete freedom to make whatever movie they want.
Yeah.
Without it being like a committee movie like Star Wars, where if they want to do something crazy, a board of directors has to decide if it's too crazy for the fans.
Yeah,
and
no, and it's
not
taking
like
away
that.
a lot more imagination, I think, than it is like really putting them in towards the movies.
And so, like a movie like this, you can tell like they had their weird little premise. You know, like dude stuck on an island, dead body man helps him get off the island.
Yeah.
And then you can almost hear like while you're watching it. When I watched it this time, it's probably the 8th time I've seen it, but when I watched it this time, like. You can almost hear the directors off screen when they're doing something, just like coming up with ideas, you know, just being like hit him in the boner, like that'd be funny, like the whole movie. It feels like they were like, cool, we have all this gear, like we have our premise, let's just go fuck around in the woods for 30 days and make a movie. And I think that's what brings me back to feeling like a kid, is that since he's not making it up, but like, since it's just those two characters the whole time and they're so isolated and there's nothing to reference them to regular people, like, it reminds me of like when you were a kid and you and your friends would go out somewhere, like out skating or out in the woods or whatever, and you would just like make up some story and just like...
play dumb imaginary games,
play like Lord of the Rings, or like you just play some weird imaginary and you're like making up rules.
Holding
and,
sticks.
I have this power now. Like now I have the ability to stretch my arm really far, so I'm gonna fight you. And it's shit like they're just playing around.
And the funniest thing is that those moments were like so important to us as kids. Like if we just made some like garbage, like little balled up water bottle.
Yeah,
like,
put sticks in it so it has arms or something. Yeah,
like we made it some sort of like magic object in our game or something. Like if somebody like fucking broke that or something, we'd all get pissed. And in this movie, they make a bunch of like little totems and stuff, and like even sets.
Yeah, they make a whole restaurant.
Yeah, they make a whole restaurant.
Bus,
they make a whole bus. They make a whole house. Like all sorts of stuff, and it's all like sacred to them. Like they all really love it. And then in the end, when the police officers and everybody's like looking at this stuff, they're just like, wow, this like took some dedication.
This is crazy.
Weird.
Like definitely fucking handy.
Well, yeah, and that's one of my favorite.
And I think that's what I realized something from the movie is like. Wait, so in the long run, it's Hank that's building all this stuff.
Yeah.
So is he actually like the Swiss Army man?
I mean,
you know what I mean? Like, is Hank like is the movie truly about a guy that's just like so like out of touch with his like own life, with his family especially, and like his love life, that he just completely erases any of his talents from that as well? Which this movie never like really hones in on, but obviously he's talented. Like he made like those garbage boats and those garbage
all of his
people.
little inventions are so fucking cool.
And he like rigs pulley systems to hold up Manny.
Yeah, or like
puppeteer
to make
him.
it look like he's looking out the window. He like makes that spinning window.
He rigs
thing.
all this stuff. So I think in the long run, it's actually like he was just never really thinking of himself as an important person because he never got like a real chance to like dazzle somebody like that before. Mm-hmm. And so now he's just, like, all in it, all full-heartedly showing him anything he could possibly think of. Like, you want to know the world? I'll build you the fucking world. Here we go. And then, like, in that sense, he's, like, reintroducing himself to the world, and he's no longer alone. He's not a piece of trash that just washed up on an island anymore.
Yeah.
The end.
So I was just thinking of taking one of the lines. But, yeah, like, I think Manny is they're the perfect little duo because... Like you said, they don't really tread on it that much, but you get the feeling that Paul Dano's character, like, he's this loser and he hates himself. Like, he's probably good at something, but he just fucking doesn't like himself. He thinks everything he does is weird and stupid.
Yeah.
He's so worried about what everybody thinks. Yeah, like, the whole main the theme line of the movie is, like, that he won't fart in front of people. It's like his whole, like, he's that kind of person. He won't ever fart in front of someone. And Manny is this dead person that forgot everything, so he has to, like, relearn everything, which is such a fucking cool concept because it just is cool to watch. But
the way they filmed it too is just breathtaking.
And it works so well with like Paul Dano's character, since he has to teach Manny why everything is so cool and like why Manny needs a reason to live. He's giving himself a reason to live at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's perfect how they make once Daniel Radcliffe can talk, it's like Paul Dano says all the stuff. He always says all like the literal shit, like this is poop and this is what this is and this is how this works. And then Daniel Radcliffe is
boobs, butts, and vaginas.
And Daniel Radcliffe is so like philosophical every time he says something. It's some like long monologue about like this is what it means to be alive.
We're looking out windows.
These are the things I forgot. Like I'm gonna ride the bus every day.
This is
everything's so
I
beautiful.
forgot.
Blah blah blah.
Dude, that's so normal.
And so it's perfect because it's like Paul Dano thinks that's such a regular thing that he hates because he doesn't like himself and doesn't care about those things. And then this, like, baby, like, he's teaching this baby how to love the world, and then he, like, Daniel Radcliffe feeds it back to him, like, no, all this stuff is great, like, life is great. And then he's like, well, shit, you're right. And then, I don't know, it's great. And this movie did such a good job with, which really surprised me, because I thought it was just going to be a funny movie.
Honestly, so
like, from the trailers, I thought it was just going to be
hilarious.
hilarious.
It was just going to be a
like,
dumb,
down for the concept.
dumb comedy movie.
Definitely.
I was like, all right.
But
cool.
they did such a good job balancing, like, the stupid shit and the, like, really heavy
Deeper
themes,
shit.
like really heavy stuff about like loving yourself and like finding happiness and meaning. And, yeah, it just like I don't know. Their characters are so perfect, and the dialogue was great because going back to it seeming like it was just like two best friends that wanted to make a movie. All the dialogue sounds like that too. Like it seems like a movie. Like that's just how we talk. You know, like when he's explaining stuff. My favorite fucking thing is when he's explaining how poop works.
Yeah. And
just because, like, no one's ever, like, no one ever really explains how poop works. It just kind of does. But he's just, like, you take everything you eat and you, like, mash it up and then you squeeze it out your butt. And it's, like, it sounds like he's explaining something to a tiny kid, because he is.
He
but
makes
also,
him an
like,
Everybody
it totally
Poops
works.
book out of a Bible.
He makes him Everybody Poop books out of a Bible that he draws everything in poop on the fucking Bible. And I
like that he says, it's trash, we hide it.
Yeah. Oh, like dead people, they're
it.
trash, so we hide them?
We hide them.
And then one of my favorite like reoccurring things is whenever Paul Dano explains something to Daniel Radcliffe, and then he just kind of like talks. He just says it's like word vomit kind of, but then he always turns it, and then he's like mean to Paul Dano, like when he's talking about. He's like, oh, like, we need to get back home, but you ran away from home because nobody loves you, and you're ugly and stupid, just like trash. And he's like, what the fuck, no? And he's like, so mean when they're talking about, like, why he doesn't masturbate.
Yeah.
And Paul Dano has this, like...
I'll think about your mom.
He has this, like, really deep story about, like, like an actual pretty legitimate reason why he wouldn't masturbate, and then fucking Daniel Radcliffe doesn't get the intricacies of it, so he's just like...
He thinks that it's going to help him if he...
I'll think about your mom when I masturbate. And he's like, don't do that. And he's like, yeah, but if I do that, you won't be weird. Like, well, I'll think about your mom when you masturbate.
Everybody will think about your mom when
and
you
it's
masturbate.
so funny because it's like fucking stupid
see
and
where he's coming
hilarious.
from, though.
Yeah, but
then you
it's so
understand.
heartfelt. Like, he's trying to be such a good
heartfelt.
friend. And just everything in this movie is like that. Like, all of the dialogue and everything services this, like, unlikely friendship or whatever. But another thing I liked about it is that their friendship is like, it's gay. It's not even friendship. They're like
in love with each other.
Literally in love. Like he actually they fall in love with each other.
That's one of the lyrics.
And I love that. Maybe it's love. And like, the first time I watched that, it kind of confused me because I was like, oh, like, they're gonna fucking be gay? Like that's not too far. In like
Sinners!
Not in like a homophobic way, but
Everybody
I was like,
poops,
I thought
guys.
this was supposed to be like,
hey, everybody poops, guys.
a friendship. But like now that like they're actually in love with each other, but like the more I watched it, the more it like it just totally makes sense.
I was
because
rooting
they're
for him, man.
connecting so much. You're like, yeah, like he does fucking love that guy. Like of course they love each other. Like they fucking love each other. And it's great. And that whole part where they're sinking in the thing and they have to like kiss, and then he pulls away and Daniel Radcliffe's like, and he just bubbles because he's smiling so hard. And
That
they
scene
fucking
happened,
fly
and I
out of
was
the water.
like, Shape of Water 2017.
Yeah, just like that. He puts an egg in the dead fish's butt instead of
Okay.
But yeah, so
Ew.
let's get into a thing I wanted to talk about that I wanted you guys to want to talk about with you is like what did you feel about the whole like kind of ambiguity about whether it's any of this shit's actually happening or not? Because I feel like the whole movie, they kind of make you kind of are thinking, like, obviously this isn't happening. This dude's fucking crazy, He's not a fucking multi-purpose tool guy. Like, he can't, obviously it can't actually be happening.
Yeah,
right.
But then at the end, the ending totally flips that, and, like, it pretty much
Like,
spells
this
out
actually
for you
all
that
happened.
all of that shit really happened.
Yeah.
Obviously they really built all that shit. He really used this dead person. This dead person is alive. Like, that was the part that really threw me off, you know, was like, he isn't dead. Like, Manny's actually not dead because he's alive.
Well, that's just going back into, like, what I was saying about, like, we need more movies like this. Because they're stories that we're not used to. We're used to always being fooled and used to always being like, oh, okay. Of course it wasn't real. It was all hallucination.
Yeah.
It's almost like that trend when everybody would always wake up and the whole thing was just a dream. That's kind of like what's going on now, only it's with, like, as many Shyamalan twists and as many, like, thought, like, twists that we can throw in there, so everything's just like, we want the audience member to not even know what the fuck they're thinking anymore.
Yeah.
But I think there should be more stories that are, like, just dumb and straight direct, saying, like, this is the universe, this exists, and everybody accepts it.
I don't think
or they don't, which they didn't in this movie, kind of.
Yeah, I don't think it was straight direct. I was questioning whether or not it was actually happening for a long time. Which I kind of liked because, you know, I was thinking, it made me think a little bit more about it, and I was thinking as far as, like, maybe, who's the character that's not Manny? I can't think
Paul
of his name.
Dano? Hank.
Yeah, maybe Hank's, like, maybe Hank actually did hang himself, and now he's just, like, in that state right
limbo
before...
or something?
Limbo.
Yeah. And he's in limbo, and he's just imagining all this, and, like, he even said in the movie, he's like, are you real, or am I just hallucinating because I'm starving? And, which I like that he's self-aware about that as well, but no, I like the ambiguity of it, and then, like, it was kind of confusing towards the end, like I was saying earlier, just that, same with that part, like, where the news lady, when she's, like, trying to interview him, and they start calling him Manny, I was like, has he been the dead... Has he just been imagining, like...
Like, he just projected himself onto
Manny's,
the
like,
body.
not even
like,
actually real.
the first time I heard that part, too, I was like, no,
but then they
come
cleared
on.
it up immediately. He's like, no, I'm not Manny, that's Manny.
Yeah, like,
my name's
he
Hank.
pretended that he was Manny so that he wouldn't look like a freak for, like, taking that weird picture of the girl on his phone.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want people to think he was weird, because that's, like, his whole character, is not wanting
Yeah.
people to think bad things about him.
But,
He's too afraid of the world and what they'll think of him, basically.
No, and I like the ambiguity, and I even like the ending where it turns out, you know, all that shit was real, and he fucking just farts his way away.
I am
and
so...
does that dumb-ass smile on him. Like,
Dude, and for some reason, Paul Dano's dad just gives him the nod.
His dad's totally accepting. It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
He's just like,
That
yes,
part-
I understand you and everything about you again.
I see. I
can
saw
come
that,
back.
and I was like,
I don't think it was supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
I think it was supposed to be more... I always took it just as the dad being like, oh my god, thank
he's
God.
literally
he
just
wasn't
giving him
crazy.
that nod, like, yeah, everything's okay.
I don't
now,
think
son.
it was that. I think it was him saying, like, thank God my son's not crazy. Because remember when he is trying to take Manny, and he's like, what the fuck? Like, don't do that. You're acting like a retard.
He's like,
Sorry,
don't say that word.
But yeah, like his dad his dad's the one that made him so insecure about everything. Because his dad makes him feel dumb when he talks bad, or makes him feel dumb because blah, blah, blah. So
his dad literally told him he would be dead if he masturbated.
And so I took it as, when his dad's smiling, I always took it as like oh fucking thank God that corpse is actually a real animated being and my son isn't just a crazy person. At least now his name is cleared, kind of thing. Like his secondhand embarrassment was like taken away. But they filmed it in such a weird like closure. Like it was weird. And it like pushes in
the suspense and the rising
loud
orchestra and everything, and then like and then just the what the fuck and like the little girl is all like laughing because the body's farting, and like that's just funny that they still let the little girl be a little girl and she's laughing at the farts and stuff, and then the body leaves and and fucking Manchester Orchestra just like brings the camera back.
He's like, what the fuck? And it's like, it would be...
I am so happy.
It would
the
be
world
like
will know that he was not lying about the dead body
scene
that was alive.
in any other movie that would be like this revelation, like it's all come to a point and everything makes sense and all the loose ends are tied up, but it's like the opposite of that, because like you thought he wasn't really alive, but then it turns out he is really alive, and now everyone else in the movie also knows that, but they fucking...
Don't know what
to
think
like bodies
about that.
don't
They
come back to life even in the movie's rules, so everyone's like, what the fuck? And then but then that's it, and then it's over.
But the movie's
only
rules...
Paul Dano understands, and he's just happy about it, but like he's still probably going to jail.
Yeah.
And like he's still gonna get in trouble, and like what are they gonna do now? A body just propelled itself into the ocean. Like they can't, it's on the news, they can't just like pretend it. Like it blew the whole thing up, but like so it's like anti-closure, but then at the same time you're like, there's no other way that was gonna go.
I thought it was gonna
I
go.
honestly agree.
I thought it was gonna go that Paul Dano and Daniel would like take Daniel Radcliffe back to the ocean, and then they would go back to the original island or something like that.
They would just go live in the woods.
And because straight up those couple lines where they're like, why are we even going back to society? Like, we should just fucking stay here and hang out.
Let's invite everyone we know.
Yeah,
just the stick people.
Exactly, which was such a cute moment. Yeah, and it's shit like that. Like, I love that stuff, but I thought that it was gonna end differently. And then so I was kind of thinking like, well, shit. Like now that Daniel Radcliffe's fucking gone away, that changes the rules of life pretty much. It's on the news. Also, like, Paul Dano is going to be fucking insane.
Yeah, like he's a fucking crazy person now.
Yeah. He's not like I don't know if this really worked out for him in the end.
No, because even though Manny was real and he wasn't being crazy the whole time, he still was acting like a crazy person. He was still living in the woods with a corpse. Yeah. Like
fucking
whether it was alive or not.
Shit, like,
yeah, and
he shaved his face with his teeth.
Another thing that
shit was so funny.
Another thing at the end that I really loved is the way that they like reintroduce all the weird shit that he's been doing the whole movie is, he takes Manny's body and he slides into the woods and everyone's following him because they're like, what are you doing? Like, come back, get out of the river.
He rides him like a fucking
And
toboggan.
the best part is that no one's even like mad at him.
Yeah,
the cops aren't
where
like,
you going?
They're just like, come on, like get out of the river.
What are you doing,
Let's
dude?
stop being crazy. But so he leads them, back through the woods, back to the beach where he arrived.
Yeah.
But my favorite fucking thing that I didn't even catch the first time I watched it because I was like too invested to think about it, but all of that shit and all of that time and all of the woods that they like travel is far. Like a mile. He was right next to the fucking town. If he would have just walked like the first day when he was talking to Manny instead of going somewhere, he could have just walked and he would have ended up on the fucking freeway in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All of that weird shit, they made it seem like they were fucking
lost,
never gonna get
lost
home.
in
They're
the woods.
So far away it'll take crazy survival skills for them to even make it home.
But like 10 feet.
And then they show up in the girl's backyard. Like they just fall out of a bush.
Literally her backyard.
And then it takes like
how did they find
2 minutes.
Is my question.
So
it's just
Manny carried him into her backyard on his back as like a symbol of Manny is now the more alive one. Of everything and stuff. And that was cool. And I was like, oh, so like it could be believable because it was Manny that did it to me. But then like as soon as they left the backyard, it was straight into the same exact woods.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Oh, so literally they were right next to the woods where she lived.
A perfect job of, because when you make anyone watch any sort of movie that isn't like a fucking biography movie or something.
Yeah.
If you're creating a world for people to watch, like they immediately have to suspend their disbelief in order to watch the movie. You have to introduce what the rules of your little movie are.
Yeah. Right.
And people do it well. You watch a movie like Blade Runner or something, and obviously it's totally fake, but like you understand it, so you can live in that world with them.
Right.
This movie, they did that perfectly. Like immediately, the rules of fucking nature don't make sense. This dead body fucking is farting its way as a jet ski, and this man rides on this thing and is going 100 miles an hour, and it's like they introduce it so just ridiculously. They don't try to make it make sense. They just do it
with baby steps, though. They introduce it.
I don't think there's no baby steps at all.
Like, he discovers the body, and then he goes up to it, and he's like, hey, are you okay? And, like, nothing happens. And then slowly a gurgle happens in his body, and then releases a fart.
I mean, well, yeah,
so it's
that's
what I mean by baby steps.
They slowly introduced the concept of farting, but, like...
They introduced the bizarreness
within 3 minutes of the movie... This man is riding a dead person like a jet ski at 100 miles an hour on the ocean.
It goes pretty quick.
Yeah.
Before they even show the title card, like, he's trying to kill himself.
Well, and even with his acting, like, reflecting that as well. It looks like he believes that he's gone insane.
Like, just immediately, it's so ridiculous that you're like, I guess this is the movie I'm watching.
Yeah.
And so they don't have to try to convince you of anything. They're just like, this is what it is.
Right.
Watch it. And then...
The only movie
you're just like, okay, okay.
The only movie I can think about that's like kind of close, like where they just have certain rules that like they don't explain just because it's so ridiculous is fucking Hardcore Henry. Because like
I never saw that movie.
I never saw it either.
Okay, well the main villain
not
in
gonna either. Sorry.
I fucking love that movie.
I'm not gonna watch it.
Anyways, the main villain in that movie is just telekinetic. The whole movie, and they never go into it and never explain it. He just is. Yeah. And like no one else is. Fucking everyone is just like kind of like a normal person and. That's it. Like but the main villain is just has telekinesis.
You get into the movie, so
and
you don't
like
think so hard. You're not like, well, that doesn't make sense.
The whole time,
no way.
So the whole time, it's kind of like, why are they ever going to explain it? And
wait a second. Harley Quinn is now staying, and Joker is over here.
Oh,
and
gross.
wait.
Yeah.
Deadshot loves Harley.
No Suicide Squad.
Wait a second.
This is a Suicide.
Why is Killer
Squad
Croc beautiful again?
Zone. Suicide Squad
Sorry.
free zone.
Sorry.
I'm gonna watch
A great example of a movie that makes absolutely no sense at all.
A great example of the worst fucking movie ever made.
Fuck that movie.
But
Review coming soon.
yeah, no,
Hell
I
no.
liked.
I'm not
We
watching
don't have
the
enough
movie again.
time
We should
to
do it.
review that movie.
No, fuck
It'd take us a week.
But
I don't want to watch that.
another thing I wanted to talk about, which is a good transition into the I guess it's not teaching Dustin things about movies, but this movie has my favorite of anything I've ever seen uses of montage.
I can put it in words.
Montage.
Oh, I was gonna say. Never mind.
Yeah, it was like everyone knows what montage.
Blew my introduction.
My bad.
But
Do it again.
yeah, it has the best use of montage that I've ever seen in any movie. Like
fucking
all over the movie, everything
like
about
Fourth Wallet and during the fucking
song
music.
is about being in a montage. Yeah,
The song is called Montage.
and but they use these montages in
Montage.
way more in way more creative ways than I've ever seen. Because when people think of montage, because everyone knows what montages are, but whenever people think about them, they think about you putting some you're just putting some stuff in order and you're showing it in quick succession. Like Rocky training to become a boxer is what everyone thinks of montage. It's him starting to work out and he's weak, and then slowly he becomes a really good boxer.
A lot
and then
of
at the
information
end,
in quick succession.
yeah, it's just putting the whole story into a 30-second thing, chunk or whatever. But this movie only uses that montage once. The whole rest of the movie, it's different uses of montage. Like when he's teaching him how the world works, and he's building him all the little things, and he this is what it's like to be a person.
Love that scene.
This is your body, this is your nose, these are your hands, and it's technically a montage, but it doesn't feel like a montage because it's not jumping over large passages of time. It's just over his one little monologue.
Yeah.
It's in real time as close as it can be, but there's just all these weird he's this is garbage, and this is a pizza box, and this is what people look like, and then he makes him a superhero, and he hits him with a car, and he's fist bumping his hand, and it's it's showing you all this information like a normal montage, but it's just a way more creative way to just explain what's happening. And it's fucking awesome. It's so
showing
cool.
it while it's telling it.
It's like story montage.
Yes, yeah, story montage, but they do it so much more visually creative rather than here's Rocky not buff punching a cow, and then he does push-ups and now he's stronger, and then he does sit-ups and now he's stronger.
They still let the story
That's
do
such
the
cut
walking.
and dry. Yeah, this one it's it has so much style and heart, just like the rest of the movie does. You don't even really realize that you're watching a montage, which I haven't really seen in any other movie. And then at the end, when they're sitting in the trees, and Manny has this new power where he's blasting all his thoughts into Paul Dano's head.
Yeah.
Then it's a different use of montage. Then it's the montage that's in Her, where it's referencing things you've already seen, but with a totally different context. Where all the stuff that we saw earlier that was happy now is sad because their friendship has been tainted or whatever because he lied to him. So it's still a montage, technically the same montage, but the context now is completely different. So it gives you the opposite feeling, and now you're really sad. You're so sad for Daniel Radcliffe because his heart's broken because his friend cheated on him with.
And they still took the time to do those other visuals too, though,
oh my God,
Manny sinking into the cave and fading away.
That fucking part is
and all
ridiculously
that stuff.
good.
They still took the time to remember what they did in those montages and intercut them into their other montages
with new footage that we've never seen before.
All the underwater stuff.
Cool.
All of a sudden, all of the stuff back then is
splashing
underwater now.
Yeah, and it was doing that. That was the part that freaked me out the first time because it's so cool. Because there's the part where they're on the bus and he's pretending to be a girl.
Yeah.
And then the other part where they're underwater, they're totally separate scenes.
Yeah.
But when they're stuck in the montage together, the water kiss is just before the bus. So they reshot the bus scene with actual water flying. So it's new footage you've never seen before, but it's obviously referencing.
Same memory.
And it makes it into this crazy dream nightmare thing where it's all. It's a montage.
It actually
literally
shows that it's his thoughts.
Yeah.
If you've seen any Manchester Orchestra video, the Daniels have directed, Simple Math is one of them, you can see, this influence. They influence themselves.
Yeah.
That whole video is nothing but that kind of style. And it just works so amazingly, weird.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it's awesome, because when it's doing that weird stuff, it's making... Because, a montage is, strictly, a film thing. Montages don't exist in real life. You just live time linearly. So movies can do montages and cheat that, but you know that that's the illusion that you're getting. You know that they're skipping time or they're showing you more things than you could normally see.
Right.
But when they actually bleed those shots together, where the water is actually in the other shot now, it like even breaks the montage illusion, and now it's like everything actually is happening at one time in his head, and it's all connected, and his dinner, you know, the restaurant's now flooded because of the water, and like
it's a good way to show how like actual thoughts work.
Yeah,
that's
like,
what I was gonna
bleeds
say. It's like a
everything
visual
together.
thought.
And
it's literally visual.
The part where it's like my favorite part, like little section, is where Paul Dano is like, stop, like whatever this power is, like you have to stop, you'll learn to control it or whatever. And he's like, I don't want to control it, like these are my thoughts. And then he goes, this is a thought, and this is a thought, and this is a thought, and then it's just like showing like totally random shit right like after each other as he thinks about them, which is...
But you can understand why he thinks that.
Yeah, it's exactly how fucking thinking works. Like, it's exactly like this is the thought, this is... And you just like pop up with these things.
Especially with like first showing... What is the first thing he holds up? Not the phone. He holds up like...
The cheesy poofs bag?
Yeah, he holds up the cheesy poofs bag, and then he holds up the phone, and you're just like, oh yeah, like everything from this movie is literally a memory that I'm witnessing again because they just figured out how thoughts work in the movie, like, or Vanny does, and then they're showing us in this like beautiful fucking ballet, basically, of like how the Daniels want to show us how that works. That's just nuts, dude, and it's just like that's exactly how thoughts work. They like. Your mind, if you've read any Stephen King book, which I am recently, your mind wanders to all sorts of crevasses tucked away in your fucking dome. You do not...
It, like, it awakens weird.
Yeah, you think of one thing, you're like, oh yeah, a feather. I remember that one time I got attacked by a goddamn goose.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, stuff like that. Like, it's so
and it's
stupid.
totally... And then all of a sudden you, like, are just in this whole other... You have to reread the page because now you're thinking about that time you fucking saw a feather or whatever.
Right, yeah. And that this movie does that.
They
just
encapsulate
nothing,
that.
with nothing but what they give us in the movie. This movie does that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like refreshing because then all of a sudden we're getting this kind of nostalgic feeling throughout the entire movie.
Because it's the
we're
memories
remembering all
that
of
you
our
made
old
in the
shit.
movie.
Yeah, but we're also remembering all of our old shit too, and like that's what like the nonchalant kind of like meaning is. I think behind the movie is just you're supposed to be happy with who you are and remember all the shit you did back in the day, and is what made you who you are now. So people should accept you for that shit no matter what.
Yeah. And they got you to think that deep-ass thing just with, like, good editing.
Yeah, good editing.
Literally just with, like,
this
well-edited scenes of montages and music and Daniel Radcliffe's very, very simple dialogue.
Yeah.
But, like, that's it. That's all it takes. You don't need some, like, crazy flashy thing. You don't need some, like, fucking philosopher to write your movie.
No.
Like, the dialogue is so simple. It's just them talking about poop and stuff. But, like... They make that into this, like, really deep, like, they're talking like how you talk, and they're thinking like how you think. So while you're watching the movie, you're like, yeah, I felt the same exact way that this dude does, or like,
they're just talking
totally
about all the things that
it.
make you tee-hee. Like, nobody likes talking about poop.
Yeah,
in
poop
parts.
jokes and
like,
butts and
yeah,
jokes.
it's a lot of, like, just...
They're like little
childish
boy jokes.
humor.
Yeah.
It fucking...
But
it
works
so
it
well.
works so well, and it's not lame.
And because the movie is shot kind of like childish, not... like saying the movie's like degraded by that sense or anything like that, but because it has like that childish quality about it through and through, the whole movie just makes sense.
Yeah.
The whole movie.
Everything, every part of it
and
is
that's
like
why
a huge part.
You should love Swiss Army Man right there.
Yeah. So now we'll get into like just the soundtrack, because that's a whole other episode we could probably do just on like the soundtrack.
We really could.
So it was written by Andy Hull, the singer from Manchester Orchestra, and Robert McDowell, the guitarist from Manchester Orchestra, that writes all their music. And they did all of this whole album, all of it's a cappella. There's no instruments.
Nice.
Every single song, including montage. Those are claps and booms.
What?
Yeah, that's cool.
Certain sections of music...
I thought for sure they hit like some sort of tom
sections
or something
on this
in there.
music have over 150 audio tracks on top of each other.
Seriously?
To make it sound like music.
Oh,
damn.
But the whole thing's a cappella, and it's all them, and they all wrote it.
See, and that's
it's
even more impressive.
Ridiculous.
God.
This is by far my favorite score of any movie ever.
Me too.
Because not only is it good, and it fits the mood so well, because that's kind of what you want from a score normally, is it's music that's original in your movie's little world, that like adds to the movie, but like it has to fit your movie, obviously. And pretty much all music and movies do that. And like, score's not that hard to have in your movie. But this one, it's like the album the soundtrack has the same personality as the movie, but also its own.
Yeah.
It's like it's its own thing, and all the lyrics are like exact. You know, they're like literal references to the movie, as soundtracks usually are, but they're also their own songs by themselves. I have the soundtrack and I listen to it regularly, just as regular music, and the lyrics, like, you can interpret them just as regular songs without having any context of what the movie is. It's like it's its own little being. Also next to this movie.
That's really interesting that you think that, man. Especially like since this movie is so heavily like interactive with the music itself too. And other than like, and this movie came out before, but like other than like Baby Driver, have I seen the music actually mean something?
Like almost
really,
it's like a character itself.
Yeah, like they literally made everything in this. Like I said it before, like they made the camera a character, and they also made the music a character.
Yeah.
By like. Paul Dano even like is featured in every single.
So is
Daniel Radcliffe and Paul Dano are featured in almost every single song because they start each song themselves.
Yeah.
And like they even make it funny. Like Daniel's like sitting there on the log. He's just like, "What are you doing?"
Singing your song so you don't overthink things.
Like see, that's good shit.
It's in
right
the movie.
there.
Like
and then
the
all of a sudden,
and
they
then it's just
sample
this
that,
crazy
and then they
shit,
just make it a fucking badass song that goes underneath it, that carries the song, and then they carry literally themselves further into the movie, and it's just fucking nuts.
And it's
how well that soundtrack.
That's what
out.
I loved so much about, like, you know, obviously the music and everything's good anyway, but I haven't seen a more creative way to put the music in your movie, because normally it's like there's always that separation that you know you're watching a movie, so when the music plays, obviously, you know, the music's a separate track and it's helping me feel this about the movie. But this one, the music is in the movie. The actors do it in the. It's like fourth wall breaking of the music in the movie.
The only other time I've ever seen that was in Me, Myself, and Irene, and it's like so subtle. He like whistles the exact song.
Oh yeah, and then the song.
He actually does do it, and
then like Kill Bill, they whistle the song.
They do it a couple times. So they do it a couple times, but they never make it so like personal like this movie.
This one, it's like it's a part of the characters. Do like it. In those movies, it's a cool audio transition, you know, where she's whistling in Kill Bill and then the song plays. It's just like a nicer way to start playing that song.
And this one, they make a random fucking noise, basically.
Like this one,
all of a sudden, it's amazing.
Part of what the characters are doing, and you never question why they're doing that. Like in the very beginning of the movie, when they're playing the song that's playing while he's riding the jet ski, like when he goes to ride on him, he's just like, blah, da, da, and he just starts singing it, and at first you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But then the music starts, and you're like,
oh my
he's
god!
Just singing the score of this movie in this movie for some reason.
That scene happened. My girlfriend turns to me and she goes, "Is this a fucking musical?
Like, what the fuck are you?"
And I was like,
"It's like that."
And I was like,
"I can actually understand that question."
It is.
And I was like, "I don't think so."
You can probably. So this is the spoiler-free review. If you haven't seen the movie yet, go see it because so that you can watch the rest of our video and get more views on my channel. So spoiler-free review. Steven, what did you think about Swiss Army Man?
Hands down, 10 out of 10 for me. This movie did nothing but impress me the entire way, as well as, like, make me think I've never seen that happen before, in, like, a good way, as well as, like, a hilarious way, also. What in the hell?
He's, like, twizzling his mustache.
You don't have a mustache. Is that me?
No,
is that me?
He was doing Fu Manchu earlier.
I'm just listening to you, man.
And I like the uncomfortableness sometimes of like what they were talking about and like just how like it's hilarious. Like it makes people red, you know, like girls supposed to be really nice to let us do that stuff to them. You know, shit like that. And, like
God damn, man. So much of the dialogue.
I really liked that Paul Dano. Oh wait, that's kind of not spoiler free, but
I mean,
Paul Dano himself was kind of like the symbol of the movie, I guess, if there was to like hone it down to one specific thing, in the fact that he felt like he was a piece of trash, so he like threw himself away by running away, and therefore it took like a dead body to reinvent himself for him to realize that he can now become the person he's always imagined he could be if he just actually wanted to be. And like to find that message like in a movie like this is hilarious in itself, and also just like honestly like it's a breath of fresh air, for lack of a better term, for this movie since there's so many farts.
Yeah.
And stuff. But like seriously, no, like this movie just had like so much going
Spoiler,
on
there's
within
farts.
it gives me hope for like future filmmakers. This movie does, because these guys just came out of nowhere and they obviously just made this movie because it's what they love and they're doing what they love. So like hands down, like I enjoyed every aspect of this movie. There's nothing I didn't not like about it. So 10 out of 10
Boom.
from Steve.
Dustin's turn.
I give it a 9.5. I thought it was amazing. I thought this movie, I think the one word that I can say that describes this movie really well is this movie has a lot of heart. It's funny, it's dramatic. I literally, after the movie was over, I was like, I don't know how to feel. Like, I feel like so happy, but like so kind of sad, and like, I don't know. It definitely does a good job of showing you different emotions, and like it makes you feel like, I don't know. The only reason I'm not giving it a 10 is just one of the, like, towards the end of the movie, that, like we were saying earlier in our spoiler review, there's a lot of there was like a good moment where I was just generally confused, and it does a good job about like wrapping itself up a little bit, but like there's that one line, I guess that's spoiler, but it just, that's the only thing that I didn't like is there was just one moment where I was like kind of confused, and it wraps it up pretty nicely, and so that goes away. But other than that, I love the shit out of this movie. I thought it was great. I've only seen it once, but I definitely want to watch it again already. Like, it's a terrific movie.
Cool.
Gross.
I give this movie a 10 out of 10. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's a masterpiece. I understand why other people wouldn't think that. This movie got a lot of weird reviews when it came out.
Oh yeah,
it's a weird movie.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the weirdest movies.
It is hands down also the weirdest movie I've ever seen.
It's
also hands down 10 out of 10.
Very
Most amazing
weird.
But not like confusing weird.
No, just an odd
like
premise.
just odd.
Which, hearing about it, you would think it's a movie that would confuse the hell out of you.
Yeah.
From the get-go.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's actually really simple.
But yeah, I think it's perfect. I think the cinematography and everything is beautiful. It's one of the best examples of like filming a movie to your movie, using all the tools in your little filmmaker toolbox to make your movie better, as opposed to just filming it with cameras because you're supposed to. The soundtrack is one of the best things I've ever heard from one of my favorite bands. Check out Manchester Orchestra if you haven't. Dialogue is perfect. The acting is ridiculous. The story is ridiculous. Everything about this movie is ridiculous, but somehow it's all
it works.
Good. Yeah, it's as ridiculous as life is, and it does this perfect job of taking all this like weird, stupid little tiny kid jokes and mixing it with this really heavy existentialism, dread, and depression, and turning it into a really honest representation of how most people probably feel most of the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's got a lot of heart. You can definitely, absolutely tell that the two dudes that made this movie just love movies, and they wanted to have a good time making one. And I don't think there was a single time making this movie that they were probably even remotely stressed.
Dude.
It was probably just fucking fun.
It was
like,
probably,
they were
everything that happened,
they were
they
just
were
laughing
probably,
their asses off throughout the entire
something would go wrong, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's funny,"
and that's
cool
like
rap.
That's
like,
the
we'll
dream. That's the dream shoot right there, dude.
And,
like that's what you want to always have.
And this is definitely this is the perfect mixture of like, or not perfect mixture. It's the perfect example of an indie filmmaker being able to make a real movie, but completely sticking to their like indie roots. Like, it's a real movie with real funding, like a Hollywood movie, but everything else about it is so genuine and sincere and small. It's just like a small movie that like your best friend and you would make in the woods with your parents' camera when you were 10. So it's great. Honestly perfect. There's nothing about this movie that I don't love, absolutely, and it inspires me to make movies.
Nice. 29.5 out of 30.
29.5 out of 30, our highest ranking so far.
That's a good score, if I do
Almost
say so.
Can't rank higher than that.
Almost.
We'll have to do a really good movie at some point to see if it ranks higher.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's it. So,
see ya, fuckers.
If you don't know about Jurassic Park, you don't know shit.